Good morning, students. Let us start the module 4's discussion. In the yesterday's class, we had seen how the low frequency response is arrived at by mathematically analyzing the BJT's amplifier circuit, and we also solved one exercise to find out of the three main capacitors or three external capacitors, which capacitor is predominant. Now, just to elaborate on that, let me try to write one small curve here itself. Now, we know that the curve is like this, and somewhere here we will have FL, and somewhere here we will have FH. Now we are analyzing only FL. So this is that minus 3 dB cutoff point from the maximum gain when we come to minus 3 dB point, that is 1 over root 2. There we obtain this particular point of FL. Now yesterday we solved an exercise in which for the input capacitance and for the output capacitance and for the emitter capacitance, we had three frequency values. So in yesterday's exercise, I mentioned that the emitter's capacitance is the one which is deciding the low frequency response. Why? The reason was, when we considered the emitter capacitance, we got the highest value of frequency. So I told you yesterday, right from 0 when we start, we are gradually rising up in this frequency response and we get a maximum gain here. Now until then, when we have these three capacitances corresponding to three frequencies, whichever is having the highest value, that itself will come nearer to the maximum gain, right? Or whichever is far away from the 0, that is going to decide the low frequency response cutoff frequency. So yesterday we had three values, with the input capacitor's value or the base capacitor's value was having a lesser frequency, and the collector capacitor's value or the output capacitor's value is having a middle range frequency, whereas the emitter's capacitor's value was having a highest frequency. That is when I told yesterday that the emitter capacitor is deciding the low frequency response of the curve, low frequency response of the amplifier. Now, yesterday I also told you that if at all we reduce that by increasing the value of the capacitance, instead of 20 microfarad, let us say we increase the value to 100 microfarad or 200 microfarad, definitely that particular FLE is going to get reduced. Then naturally it is the collector capacitance which is going to decide the low frequency response or the value of FL. So by looking at this curve, you can understand that whichever value we get below, let us say in the shaded region, whichever value we get below, that is of not importance for us at all, because from 0 we start counting the frequency at which we get a gain of 3 dB less than the maximum gain here, right? So that is what is FL. Now whichever capacitance is deciding this particular value of FL, that will be the dominant capacitance. So we should be careful when we choose these capacitor values. We are not choosing them randomly or as a fancy. That was the point which I wanted to revise. Similarly, later on when we are going to find out FH, you can again think about that when we go from this maximum gain point till 3 dB down, whichever capacitance is going to decide this particular value of FH, means here the highest value is not important, the least value is important. In case of FL, the highest value out of the three is important. In case of FH, it is the least value that is important, because this particular value is having a lesser value compared to the shaded portion. In the shaded portion also you will get other frequencies corresponding to other capacitances, but they are not the dominating capacitors there. In case of high frequency analysis, whichever capacitance is going to yield us the least frequency in the higher frequency range, that is going to be predominant. Whereas in the lower frequency range, whichever capacitance is going to yield us the highest frequency, that is going to be dominant. I hope this point is clear to you. Now with this brief recap, let us proceed for today's class. So in today's class, let us see the impact of the source resistance. Yesterday, we did not consider the resistance of the signal source itself. We directly started computing with the capacitance and the amplifier. Today, let us see what is the impact of the source resistance. In general, source resistance will be hardly a few ohms or a few hundreds of ohms. In most of the cases, it is ignored. Still, in the frequency response analysis, we cannot ignore even a very small parasitic quantity also, or even a very small R or C. So let us consider this source resistance of the signal source and let us try to find out what is its effect. So you can see the picture here. To the amplifier, there is this series capacitance at the input. That is nothing but the CS what we discussed yesterday. I used to write it as CB earlier. Here we are writing CS. The reason is now we have RS also. That means the resistance of the source is there. So it is appropriate to write it as VS, RS and CS corresponding to the signal source. Now looking at this diagram, we can write an expression for the input voltage at the base. The AC quantity is VB equals Vs into Ri by Rs plus Ri minus J into XCS. This Ri minus J XCS term is already familiar to you. Yesterday we had discussed it. Now this Rs is in series with the total resistance or total impedance. In fact, Ri minus J XCS is the total impedance because it contains resistance also, reactance also. So now we have the total resistance at the denominator and Ri is the input resistance of the amplifier. We are actually finding out the input signal at the base. So using this expression, we can write VB by Vs is Ri by Rs plus Ri minus JXC. Now we can write this expression in this manner also by bringing Ri to the denominator. We can write it as 1 by 1 plus Rs by Ri minus JXCS by Ri. That is the ratio of VB by Vs. That means there will be a drop across Rs and Cs. So this can be again written in a slightly different form as 1 by 1 plus Rs by Ri into 1 minus J into XCS by Ri divided by 1 plus Rs by Ri. Now you may wonder why are you replacing all these terms in this manner. Now our intention is to find out the effect of the source resistance. So let us have a ratio of Rs by Ri always, and let us later find out how this ratio Rs by Ri is going to affect our gain or frequency response for that matter. That is why the terms are being slightly rearranged here. By bringing out 1 plus Rs by Ri separately out, and we will be able to write it as 1 minus J into XCS by Ri divided by 1 plus Rs by Ri. So this can be again written as 1 by 1 plus Rs by Ri into 1 minus J into XCS by Ri plus Rs. Simplifying this particular term, we can get a term like this. But now, what is this particular term XCS by Ri plus Rs? XCS by Ri plus Rs is 1 over 2 pi FCS into Ri plus Rs, because what is reactance XC? 1 over 2 pi FC. So 1 over 2 pi FCS into Ri plus Rs. This is nothing but FLS by F. This we already know from yesterday's analysis. That is the low frequency response divided by the general value of frequency. So using this terminology now, we can write the voltage gain AV as VB by Vs equals Ri divided by Ri plus Rs into 1 by 1 minus J into FLS by F. By substituting for this XCS by Ri plus Rf in this upper equation. We get a term like this. Now you can distinctly see that if we consider the source resistance, then we have this particular factor Ri by Ri plus Rs. If the source resistance is not considered or if it is ignored, then this Ri by Ri is going to become unity and we are going to arrive at the same expression which we arrived at yesterday's class. Now you can observe that this Ri by Ri plus Rs term is the distinguishing factor when we consider the source resistance. For arriving at this particular factor itself, this much of rearrangement of the terms was performed. So when FLS equals F, mod of AV is Ri by Ra plus Rs into 1 over root 2. So finally we can come to a conclusion, the voltage gain will be affected by a term Ri by Ra plus Rs. All other things will remain the same as before. The expressions for FLC and FLE remain the same as before. Why? Because we are considering only the inputs source resistance there. So that way only that FLS is being affected. Otherwise FLC and FLE remain the same. So remember this particular term Ri by Ri plus Rs is going to be multiplied to our regular voltage gains expression. Now using this particular analysis or the result, let us solve an exercise now. Repeat exercise 1 with Rs equals 1 kilo ohms. It is the same exercise which was done yesterday. Only thing is in series we have this 1 kilo ohms source resistance. So here AV is V0 by VB is minus 90. AVS is now V0 by Vs. Yesterday we had already seen this AV. AVS is V0 by Vs. We can write it as V0 by VB into VB by Vs. That is minus 90 into, we can substitute for this VB by Vs 1.32K by 1.32K plus 1K. What is this? Ri divided by Ri plus Rs. So that is what we have obtained. So we are getting the voltage gain as minus 51 now instead of minus 90. Now FLS is 1 by 2 pi into, we have to substitute Ri plus Rs instead of only Ri. Yesterday we had substituted only the input resistance. Now the source resistance is in series. So when we substitute it, we get FLS equals 6.86 Hertz. And then FLC is 1 by 2 pi into R0 plus RL into CC, which is 25.67 Hertz. And FLE is 1 by 2 pi into RE into CE. Let me show you this RE now. RE is capital RE parallel with, now we have to consider this RS also. Yesterday we had considered only R1 parallel with R2 divided by beta, but now that RS is also present there in the AC analysis of the circuitry. So we have to consider RS parallel with R1 parallel with R2 divided by beta plus small re, and we get around 24.35 ohms. And then we get FLE as 327 Hertz. Now look at these values. You are seeing a 6.86 Hertz. You are seeing a 25.61 Hertz. You are seeing a 327 Hertz. In the yesterday's example, this was somewhere around 80 Hertz. Let me go back and show you yesterday's results. So in yesterday's results, we had 12.06 Hertz, we had 25.67 Hertz, and we had 87.08 Hertz. So in today's exercise, when we consider the source resistance, what was the difference there? Remember this value, 12, 25, 87. Now let me come back. Here it is 625, 327. Even FLS is reduced because we had this denominator increased by the term RS. So FLS is reduced. And FLC remains the same because at the output there is no effect of the source resistance. Whereas FLE is increased 327 Hertz. Why? That is because this value of Re got changed because this Rs parallel with R1 parallel with R2 came into picture. So because of which FLE got increased now. Now, even in this case also, the emitter capacitance itself is the dominant capacitance. Why? Starting from 0, we are rising up in that low frequency curve. Initially, we will come across 6.86 Hz, then we will come across 25.67 Hz, then we will come across 310 to 7 Hz. That means we are coming to a point where we want a point where the gain is 3 dB less than the maximum gain. That means whichever is nearer to the maximum gain, that frequency we have to consider. So naturally, even when we consider the source resistance also, the emitter capacitance is remaining the dominant capacitance, or that is the one which is deciding the low frequency response of an amplifier. Now just look at this. Instead of this 20 microfarad, if at all we make this as 200 microfarad, what will happen? Instead of 327 Hz, it will become 32.7 Hz. Even in that case also, emitter capacitance is going to remain dominant. Now instead of 200 microfarad, if we make it 2000 microfarad, then it is going to become 3.27 Hz. Just look at this. Instead of 20 microfarad, if we make it 2000 microfarad, then this value is going to become 3.27 Hz. At that time, it is the output capacitance which is going to be deciding the low frequency cutoff frequency, because then this 25.67 Hz will be the largest value out of all the three. So that way we can choose these capacitance values. In fact, by choosing the respective capacitance values, we can actually decide what cutoff frequency at the lower range we require. In fact, we can design an amplifier for a given gain, given input impedance, given output impedance. Now, we can design an amplifier for a given lower cutoff frequency also by choosing those respective capacitance values. So I repeat that it is not that randomly we are choosing an input capacitance and output capacitance and the emitter capacitance just because capacitor has to pass AC and it has to block DC. That is not the idea there. The value also plays a very important role in deciding the cutoff frequency of the amplifier. So now we have discussed the low frequency response of a BJT circuit. Let us proceed now to discuss the low frequency response of a JFET circuit. In between, if you have any questions, you can always unmute and ask me, or you can put the questions in the chat box if you have any specific questions. Otherwise, I will proceed with the class. Let me proceed. The series resistance reduces the gain as well as the bandwidth that we have seen now. Now the series resistance or the source resistance, it is reducing the gain. Minus 90 became minus 51. And it is reducing the bandwidth also. How? In yesterday's discussion, we had 80 Hz. Now we have 327 Hz. Means the lower cutoff frequencies value got increased. Naturally, bandwidth got reduced. You already remember that bandwidth is nothing but FH minus FL. Now the value of FL is increased when the source resistance was considered. That means bandwidth got reduced now. From 80 Hz it went to 320 Hz, means how much it is now? It is 320 minus 80. How much it is? 320 minus 80. I should use Kannada language only for such computations because my mother tongue as well as father tongue is Kannada only. So, around 200 Hz increase, right? I am mentally calculating, I am not exactly calculating. There is a raise, that means the bandwidth is reduced. Let me exactly calculate. Why to unnecessarily make a computation. So 320 minus 80. 320 minus 80 to be specific is 12 ಎಂಟ್ಕೊಳ್ರೆ 4 ಆಮೇಲೆ 2. So it is a reduction of 240 hertz in the bandwidth as far as lower frequency is concerned. From 80 hertz it went to 320 hertz, means there was an increase of 240 hertz of FL. As bandwidth is FH minus FL, there is a reduction of 240 hertz in the bandwidth. So that way the series resistance is going to reduce the gain as well as the bandwidth. Now let us proceed to discuss an amplifier circuit with GFET. Low frequency response of an FET amplifier. Now here, let us consider the signal source's resistance from the beginning as it is. So we have the signal source, we have this R sig. R sig stands for the resistance of the signal source. Then we have this CG, that is the capacitance at the gate. Then we have this RG. This particular circuit, whatever we are seeing, is a self-bias circuit. So we have a resistance at the gate, we have a resistance at the source, and we have a capacitance at the source, and then we have a drain resistance. Then we have a coupling capacitance at the output. We have written it as CC itself because it's a coupling capacitance here, and then we have this RL. Now we have three capacitances now: CG, CS, CC. We have to find out of these three which one is dominant in deciding the low frequency response. So let us write the expression for FLG considering the input capacitance, that is 1 over 2 pi into R sig plus Ri into CG. R sig is the source resistance and Ri is the input resistance. Now the input resistance is basically Rg itself. This we had discussed when we had discussed the DC analysis of FET circuits. As FET is a field effect transistor, there is no gate current. When there is no gate current, we need not bother much about what is the input impedance of the FET as such. We can consider it as infinity when we compare it with Rg. So when Rg parallel with infinity, we can say the effective input resistance is Rg itself. So that is how we have written it directly as 1 over 2 pi into R sig plus Rg into Cg. Now this is FLG. Now let us gradually move on to FLC. In FLC, 1 over 2 pi into R0 plus RL into Cc. Let me admit the student who is waiting in the lobby. Okay, 1 over 2 pi into R0 plus RL into Cc, where this R0 is nothing but capital Rd parallel with small rd. Capital Rd is the drain resistance, small rd is the internal resistance of the drain region. RL is the load resistance, as this is already evident from the circuit diagram. So we can, as such, we are following the approach we used yesterday. We already know that F is 1 over 2 pi RC. Whichever is the corresponding R, corresponding C, we are substituting it in the formula. So FLC is directly evident, 1 over 2 pi into R0 plus RL into CC. Finally coming down to now FLC or FLS, let us say for the source, FLCS or FLS. So coming to FLS now, 1 over 2 pi into R equivalent into CS. You can see in this diagram, we have this CS, we have this RS. But as we had done an analysis yesterday, we found out the effective resistance at the emitter as R1 parallel with R2 divided by beta. Now today also we will have to find out the effective resistance at the source. It is not just RS. Let us see. So now it is R equivalent, 1 over 2 pi R equivalent into CS, where R equivalent is nothing but RS in parallel with 1 over GM. Now, in case of FET, there is no beta, but we have a factor called transconductance. Now, if at all you have to find out the effective resistance at the source, that is nothing but 1 over transconductance, that is 1 over GM. So, that way R equivalent is RS parallel with 1 over GM. For that matter, I should say that the analysis of FET is far simpler when compared to the analysis of BJT, because there is no gate current at all. So, input impedance for the FET itself can be taken as infinity, and that is how the formula becomes slightly simpler when compared to BJT. Now, using this particular formula, let us have one more exercise today for the FET. Determine the lower cutoff frequency is given. CG is 0.01 microfarad, CC is 0.5 microfarad. Remember that CG is the gate capacitance, CC is here the coupling capacitance. At times it can be written as CD also, indicating the drain. Whereas the author Boylestad has used these terms only, that's why I am using those terms only. Sometimes it is wise to use the terms which are used by the textbook's author himself, because in the exams the question paper setters also will be using the same convention as that of the textbook. That way it is better. So CG is 0.01 microfarad, CC is 0.5 microfarad, and CSC is 2 microfarad capacitance at the source. R sig, the signal source's resistance is 10 kilo ohms. The resistance at the gate is 1 mega ohms, resistance at the drain is 4.7 kilo ohms, and resistance at the source is 1 kilo ohms. The load resistance is 2.2 kilo ohms. Now, IDSS is 8 milliampere, VP is minus 4 volts, VDD is 20 volts. Now, you have all these data given. The data at the lower side is given to find out GM itself. We have to find out GM using graphical method now. That is why IDSS is given and a pinch of voltage is given. Now, please remember, whenever such exercise is asked, either in the test or in the exam, you will have to completely visualize the circuit diagram. Only when you visualize the circuit diagram, then only you will understand which one is CG, which one is CC, which one is CS, which one is R sig, which one is RG, which one is RD, which one is RS, which one is RL. If you do not visualize the circuit diagram, all these are going to be a mystery for you. So, whether in the test or in the exam, for such exercises, circuit diagram will not be given. Only these values will be given. And you will have to visualize the circuit diagram. For that matter, you will have to keep reading the textbook as well as the notes, so that you will remember the circuit diagram. Anyway, enough of my advices or suggestions or whatever. You are more brilliant than me, isn't it? Even for subtracting 320 minus 80, I am writing down and finding out as 240. You would have immediately calculated it within a few seconds, right? So you are all more brilliant than me. That way I don't have to keep on advising you people as such. Let me proceed with the discussion of the class. We have to find out GM now. Applying the graphical method for obtaining the transconductance. Let us apply the graphical method now. We know that IDSS is 8 milliampere and VP is minus 4 volts, and we already have the earlier method where for IDSS by 2 and IDSS by 4 we can have respective values. So 0.3 VP, 0.5 VP was corresponding to that. Please recall all the discussions of the graphical method. So that way I have added these 2 points there, and I have put this line also, because in the self bias we require this straight line which is passing through the origin. That is why we had this equation. You can see this VGS is minus ID into RS was the equation for the straight line. When ID is 0, VGS is 0. When ID is 4 milliampere, VGS is 4 volts. Accordingly, we can have a straight line here. Let me admit the student. we can have a straight line here, and wherever the straight line is cutting this curve, there we get the Q point as such, right? So when ID is 4 milliampere, VGS is 4 volts, therefore IDQ is 2 milliampere, VGSQ is minus 2 volts. Now we can substitute these particular values in the expression for GM. What is GM? 2 IDSS by Vp into 1 minus VGSQ by Vp, that is 2 into 8 milliampere divided by 4 into 1 minus 2 by 4. We are getting 2 millisiemens. So for finding out the value of the transconductance itself, all these data were utilized along with the transfer curve. Now we can find out the voltage gain. AV is minus GM into RD parallel with RL. Substituting the values, we get around minus 2.997. Earlier also we used to get such values only, and we had discussed that FET is not a very good voltage amplifier when compared to BJT. Here it is giving only a gain of around 3 times, whereas the BJT will give more than 150, 200 times the voltage gain. Now proceeding with the further exercise, if we consider the source resistance, then AV sig is, we already had arrived at this particular fraction, Ri by Ri plus R sig. In this FET circuit it is mentioned as R sig. In the BJT circuit we had mentioned it as Rs. So substituting that, we get a term minus 2.967. It is slightly reduced because here the input resistance is much larger, it is 1 mega ohms. So considering the signal source's resistance, the voltage gain will not be affected heavily. That is the outcome of FET's analysis. Otherwise also in case of FET, voltage gain is not really large also. Proceeding further, we have this FLG 1 over 2 pi into 10k plus 1 mega into 0.01 microfarad, substituting all those values at the input. R sig plus RG into that CG. You just have to visualize the circuit diagram now. This 10k is the signal source's resistance and 1 mega is the gate resistance and 0.01 microfarad is the resistance at the gate, capacitance at the gate. So we get 15.76 Hertz. Now FLC is 1 over 2 pi into R0 plus RL into 0.5 micro. Here small rd is not given. As small rd is not given, we can ignore it. We can directly substitute capital RD plus RL into the capacitance which is provided at the output. Here we have noted it as CC, coupling capacitance, that is 0.5 microfarad. So we get the value 46.13 Hertz. Now substituting for FLS. For FLS we require the R equivalent. R equivalent is that RS parallel with 1 over GM. We have found GM as 2 millisiemens. So the source resistance parallel with 1 over GM, we get 333 ohms. So FLS is 1 over 2 pi into 333 into the source capacitance is 2 microfarad. We get 238.97 Hertz. Now you can observe the 3 frequency values. Even in this particular exercise also, the dominant capacitance is the source capacitance. Even in our previous exercise also, we got the dominant capacitance as the emitter capacitance. That was the one which was deciding the low frequency response. Here also it is the source capacitance that is deciding the low frequency response. Because as you already know, the highest value of frequency is the one that is nearer to the maximum gain, which is away from 0. So if at all we make this 2 microfarad as 20 microfarad, what is going to happen? If this 2 microfarad is made as 20 microfarad, what is going to happen? The frequency of FLS is going to become 23.897 Hertz. In such case, the output capacitance CC will become dominant because that is going to provide a frequency of 46.13 Hertz at the lower cutoff frequency. So this way, we can always change the capacitance values so as to particularly decide which lower cutoff frequency value which we desire for a given amplifier circuit. So this was an analysis of low frequency response of BJT amplifier as well as FET amplifier. Let me proceed further. Now we have a discussion called Miller effect capacitance. I am going to slightly deviate from the main discussion now, because later on we are going to discuss the high frequency response. For discussing the high frequency response, we will have to find out the internal capacitances. As you already know, the low frequency response is because of the external capacitors that are in the circuitry, whereas the high frequency response is basically because of the leakage that is happening inside the device, and because of which there are internal stray capacitances, also called as parasitic capacitances. Now we will have to find out the parasitic capacitances which are inside our devices, both with BJT and with FET. Now for that matter, till now in our RE model or hybrid model, we were writing base separately and collector separately. Or even in FET, we were writing gate separately and the drain separately with the source grounded. Now, when we consider the internal capacitance, we cannot write the model that way. You can simply visualize. I'll just write the RE model once again, just for you to revise. Now, in case of BJT, we had this model. We had this model where this was beta into RE, and this was a current source with beta into IB. You can see this is base, this is collector, this is emitter. I am writing small letters especially indicating the AC analysis. Now you can see that between base and collector we did not write anything at all. So to say, this model is not really very accurate. Why? We completely ignored the internal capacitances that are there between base and collector. I will write a transistors diagram here. Where collector is a large region. Now this is base, this is base, this is collector, and this is emitter. Okay. Now you can see between base to emitter there is a diode, and in AC analysis we replace that diode with the dynamic resistance. That is because we were dealing with the Q point. We were worried only about the small signal analysis. Around the Q point, whatever was the performance of the switch, we were only interested in that. So we substituted this base to emitter junction with beta into RE times a resistance. Then the collector we simply replaced with the beta into IB as a current source, because the switch is working in the active region. Now emitter is grounded, and between base and collector we actually ignored the effect, because this was considered as a diode, and always when the amplifier is working in the active region, the base to collector junction is reverse biased. When the base to collector junction is reverse biased, we did not bother much about the reverse biased junction. Base to emitter junction is always forward biased, so we replaced it with beta into RE. Whereas from collector to emitter, when the current was flowing, we replaced it with this current source beta into IB. So in this RE model, or even in the hybrid model, we did not think of connecting base and collector together. We isolated the input side and output side fully with reference to emitter. But in the high frequency analysis, this will not work out this way. Why? Because when the base to collector junction is reverse biased, there will be a depletion region in this PN junction, right? Now this is N and the base is P. Now this base is P. You know this is P. And the lower one is N. When we are using this amplifier, when the base to collector junction is reverse biased, this particular diode is reverse biased. And you know that whichever diode is reverse biased, that will have a larger depletion region. And the larger depletion region will have a larger capacitance as such. Basically, depletion region is what? Depletion region means depleted of the charge carriers or devoid of the charge carriers. But the other side, on both sides of the depletion region, there is voltage. When there is voltage, it is as if the capacitance is going to get charged. So there is a capacitance between base to collector. In all our AC analysis, we had ignored this because at that time it was not important. But now, when we discuss the high frequency analysis, even this becomes important. As I had told you, in the frequency response analysis, we cannot ignore even a small quantity of resistance and capacitance also, because it is going to affect our frequency response, the frequency response of the amplifiers. So now we will have to find out what are all stray capacitances that are available in our amplifier circuit inside the device. It is not outside the device. Now for finding out those parasitic capacitances or stray capacitances, we will have to discuss a concept called Miller effect. And it is already time now. In today's class, I will not discuss much about Miller effect capacitance. In the next class, I will discuss in detail about Miller effect capacitance. Miller is the name of a scientist who mathematically arrived at a methodology to find out the capacitance which is connecting input and output. You can see in this diagram, input is base, output is collector, emitter is grounded. Now in between input and output, we will have to visualize this particular capacitance. That is between base and collector, we have the reverse biased diode there, and the reverse biased diode will have its own capacitance that has to be visualized this way. So Miller gave an idea about how to compute this particular capacitance which is between input and output. Once we obtain an expression for this capacitance, we can actually substitute in all our other expressions or equations, and we can arrive at the high frequency response. That is the idea of finding out Miller effect capacitance. So let me discuss the Miller effect capacitance in much more detail in the next class. Let me end today's class. See you in the next class. Take care and bye-bye.